Having shared a lifetime of marriage with Lu Qi, our lives harmonized like the strings of a zither, blessed with the joy of children. After much anticipation, when our son finally achieved academic success, Lu Qi, to my astonishment, embraced me and leaped into the flames. Ah, Qi, do not hold it against me. Had it not been for your father's denunciation, the Qingwan family would not have perished in the fires of exile. I have harbored guilt and regret for the better part of my life. Let this fire today serve as our atonement for Qingwan. Yet, I must express my gratitude for the stability and tranquility you have afforded me throughout my existence. But I am weary should there be a next life. I yearn to live with greater fervor. Lu Qi, true to his word, upon his rebirth, swiftly exchanged his military merits to retrieve the exiled Lin Qingwan. He disregarded the whispers of scandal, kneeling before the emperor for 7 days and nights, beseeching permission to annul our betrothal. The emperor summoned me. Ah Qi, the decision lies with you. I presented my personally inscribed letter of annulment, stating calmly, this humble servant wishes to withdraw from the engagement. My family, the Jiang clan, has long been known for its loyalty and valor, with both young and old laying down their lives on the battlefield. Now, as the sole survivor, how could I allow a man who does not want me to tarnish our family name? Is it not merely a chance to live passionately, even if just once? If Lu Qi can, then so can I. 1. Ah Qi, your engagement to Lu Qi was arranged by your father during his lifetime. Your father spoke highly of Lu Qi. If your ire stems from his actions, I shall seek retribution on your behalf. It is understandable that the emperor perceives my demeanor as mere petulance. The actions of Lu Qi in recent days have become the subject of ridicule throughout the capital. The military achievements he had withheld for 3 years are now squandered on the daughter of a traitor. Though the emperor seethed with indignation, he was compelled by his own words to comply. On the day of his departure to retrieve Lin Qingwan, Lu Qi's mother, disregarding her dignity, clung desperately to his leg in public, pleading for him to reconsider. Yet, the dutiful son he was, he ordered his servants to forcibly escort his mother back to their residence. My father, a former vice-general, brandishing his sword, confronted him at the city gate, denouncing him for betraying me. Even as the blade drew blood from his neck, he steadfastly gazed towards the northern state, declaring with resolute conviction, in this lifetime, I, Lu Qi, shall marry no one but Lin Qingwan. Even if you slay me, I shall ensure my body is delivered to Qingwan. Upon bringing Lin Qingwan back, Lu Qi lavished her with unrestrained affection. Even before our annulment was finalized, he showed no regard for my dignity, openly courting Lin Qingwan at every opportunity. Your Majesty, I am not merely acting out of spite, I simply believe that unrequited love yields no fruitful outcome. My calm demeanor only deepened the emperor's guilt and dissatisfaction towards Lu Qi. He shattered the teacup in his hand upon the ground, pacing back and forth with hands on his hips. What is it about Lin Qingwan that captivates him so? How could a top scholar cast aside his future and provoke the emperor's wrath? I, too, remain perplexed as to Lin Qingwan's merits. Yet is this not the nature of humanity? What is unattainable is forever deemed the best. Regret, too, remains an indelible mark upon the heart. I picked up the marriage annulment notice that had fallen from His Majesty's dragon robe, brushed off the dust, and gently placed it before the emperor. Your Majesty, please approve this annulment. The emperor understood that matters of the heart could not be forced. Yet, being a man of his word and honoring his father's dying wish, he felt compelled to speak further. The entire Jiang family has perished on the battlefield, leaving only you. I promised your father I would ensure your safety and well-being throughout your life. If you find Lu Qi unsatisfactory, I shall arrange for you another suitable suitor. In truth, Lu Qi was indeed a worthy match. Though born of humble origins, he possessed a resilient spirit, steadfastly devoted to his studies even in the face of adversity. While it could be said that he benefited from the Jiang family's influence during the palace examination, he also had his own merits. After our marriage, he never once acted inappropriately. For the first 5 years, I bore no children. His mother, concerned for the Lu family, urged him to take a concubine. Yet he resolutely declined, fearing that such a notion would trouble me. He publicly claimed it was his own health that rendered him unable to father children. In my previous life, it was common knowledge in the capital that the minister's beloved wife was deeply cherished. From a youthful top scholar to a powerful official, Lu Qi was never short of admirers. Nevertheless, he remained steadfastly devoted to one woman until the end. Who could find fault with him? I certainly could not. Had I not learned of his regrets before my untimely demise, I would have still regarded him as my ideal partner in this life. Alas, the fire that consumed so much did not merely destroy his image in my heart, but also severed the ties between us that spanned 2 lifetimes. I lacked the confidence to find a more suitable companion than he, and thus I resolved not to pursue another. Your Majesty, marriage is a matter of fate. If Lu Qi has firmly resolved to annul our engagement, it signifies that fate has turned against us. Rather than entangle ourselves for a lifetime, it is better to part ways swiftly. The Emperor, unable to resist my determination, trembled as he affixed the imperial seal to the annulment notice. I exited the imperial study and presented the annulment to Lu Qi. Perhaps taken aback by my unexpected assistance, he stood momentarily stunned before regaining his composure. With great care, he tucked the notice into his bosom, his face a mask of remorse as he uttered, "Ah Qi, I am sorry. I did not wish to humiliate you. I merely sought to rectify the regrets of my past life." Regrets, indeed. Who does not have them? He claimed he chose to forsake Lin Xinglan for my sake. Yet he remained unaware that I too had relinquished my own dreams for him. After being entrusted with significant responsibilities by the Emperor, I devoted myself to caring for our children and managing domestic affairs, so as to allow him to focus on his duties. The once radiant daughter of a military family suppressed her brilliance, laid aside her armor, and rolled up her sleeves to prepare meals. I never allowed him to witness my regrets. He never inquired whether I still harbored aspirations or dreams of glory. Now that he had something he cherished, why should I shackle myself further? I did not respond to Lu Qi's words and left the palace without a backward glance. Outside the palace gate, a slender woman in ornate attire nervously wrung her hands as she approached me. "Miss Jiang, I apologize. Qinglan never intended to disrupt your engagement with Lu Lang." I advised Lu Lang, but he would not listen. Lin Qinglan appeared just as she always had, with a fresh face and an air of graceful tranquility, a true embodiment of the white moonlight. Yet I knew that everything visible was merely a fade. Lin Qinglan was never a benign presence. Her father, Lin Yangji, had once been the grain officer under my father. My father treated Lin Yangji well, but alas, he himself was undisciplined, not only embezzling and accepting bribes but also delaying military operations through the misallocation of supplies. My father, upholding justice, brought Lin Yangji to the Emperor's attention. While the world condemned Lin Yangji, my father secretly confided in me that Lin Yangji was not of a bad nature. It was merely unfortunate that he had a daughter enamored with vanity and the pursuit of fame. Lin Qinglan's mother had perished during her difficult birth, and Lin Yangji, in his boundless indulgence, had spoiled her. To satisfy her ever-growing desires, he was compelled to resort to unscrupulous means. My father's words echoed in my mind, and my gaze towards Lin Qinglan grew increasingly disdainful. "Miss Lin, your constant reference to Lu Lang hardly sounds like an apology. Rather, it seems more like boasting." I deliberately raised my voice, observing the crowd of curious onlookers gather, their interest piqued. Lin Qinglan's face flushed crimson with embarrassment. She clutched her skirt tightly, tears welling in her eyes as she pleaded, "Miss Jiang, that was not my intention. I never wished to return with young Master Lu, but my health is frail. How could I possibly oppose him?" Witnessing Lin Qinglan feign victimhood felt akin to a heavy stone pressing upon my chest, stifling my breath. In truth, I had scarcely encountered Lin Qinglan. Had it not been for Lu Qi's words before my demise in my previous life, I might have nearly forgotten her existence. Until I met Lin Qinglan moments ago, all my disappointment had stemmed solely from Lu Qi. Yet she obstinately approached me, attempting to provoke me with her repugnant antics. I would not grant her that satisfaction. "Miss Lin, I have heard that you traveled back with Lu Qi, sharing a carriage and enjoying the scenery together, engaging in laughter and conversation. Upon arriving in the capital, you appeared as a couple, behaving intimately. It hardly seems like you are unwilling." The onlookers had already looked down upon Lu Qi's actions, and now, seeing me, the rightful party, speak up, they could not restrain their comments. However, the common folk lacked my eloquence. Some called her shameless, others labeled her a lowly wretch, while some even branded her a wanton who disrupts other people's relationships. Lin Qinglan's face turned as pale as uninked rice paper, her body trembling like a leaf in the wind. Just as she appeared utterly lost, a bronze hand grasped her shoulder. Feeling the familiar presence, Ling Qinglan found solace, and the tears she had been suppressing finally flowed freely.
Lulang.
I merely wish to apologize to Miss Jiang, but it seems she has misunderstood my intentions. Lu Qi's gaze bore into me, his disappointment unmasked. Ah, Qi. I am grateful to you for seeking the annulment notice on my behalf and for your understanding. Yet, this matter ultimately stems from my own mistakes. If you are angry, direct it towards me. Why must you harm Qinglan? I could not help but laugh. I spoke nothing but the truth. There was no fabrication. If Lord Lu and Miss Lin are truly in love, why fear the whispers of others? The surrounding chatter grew louder, and with each explanation Lu Qi offered, the crowd responded with tenfold retorts. Lu Qi, parched and weary from his attempts to defend himself, found little success. Thus, he redirected his ire towards me.
Jiang Qi.
How was I unaware before of your meticulous nature? In truth, Lu Qi was not ignorant. He had simply forgotten. Before marrying him, I had been a bold and spirited young woman, so vibrant that anyone would remark upon my resemblance to my father. However, meticulous was his prejudice. To be precise, I was discerning. In those days, if I witnessed an injustice, I would take up arms to aid the wronged, regardless of whether they were high officials or noble relatives. In my eyes, there was only right and wrong. If I were wronged, I would never suffer in silence. If someone insulted me, I would return the insult double. My parents constantly worried that my temperament would hinder my marriage prospects, fearing that I would scare off my husband after marriage. Yet they were mistaken. Not only did I marry, but I also transformed into the very virtuous wife I had once scorned. Alas, after 40 years of sharing a bed, in Lu Qi's heart, the figure of the girl in red had long since become a blurred memory, indistinct and elusive. Thus, he perceived that I had transformed, evolving into a bold and overbearing firefox, one that takes pleasure in tormenting gentle souls like Lin Qinglan, who is as defenseless as a little white rabbit. When I remained silent, Lu Qi mistakenly believed that I was filled with remorse. Seizing the opportunity, he dispersed the onlookers and grasped my wrist, declaring, "Ah, Qi, I know you harbor resentment, but Qinglan has suffered too much in both this life and the last. What harm is there in allowing her a peaceful existence? How about this? On the day of the grand wedding, you and Qinglan can come together, and I shall take you as my secondary wife." In moments of exasperation, one can truly find humor, much like I do now. Lu Qi, on what grounds do you believe that I am indispensable to you? Ignoring my struggles, he tightened his grip on my wrist. I know you do not consider me your only option. However, who in the capital is unaware of the bond we share? We have been betrothed for 6 years, inseparable, and the rumors outside have spread like wildfire. Ah, Qi, besides me, who else could genuinely accept you? Before I could respond, the chief steward hurriedly approached, presenting me with an old, blood-stained tiger talisman. Miss Jiang, you left in haste and forgot to take the talisman. His Majesty instructed me to deliver it to you promptly. Once you arrive at the military camp, it would be troublesome to lack a talisman. My thoughts drifted back to an hour earlier. After I requested to withdraw from the engagement, the Emperor looked at me in bewilderment.
Aki.
Have you not always been quite satisfied with Lu Qi? If you break the engagement, you shall surely regret it in the future. I calmly shook my head. I shall not, Your Majesty. There are far more significant matters awaiting my attention in this world. Seeing the Emperor still puzzled, I continued to elucidate. The southern regions have suffered constant calamities, while the northern front is besieged by foes. I recognize that the court is already stretched thin. If I were to venture to the border to fight against the enemies, I would not only alleviate your burdens, but also secure a greater chance for the common people. Is this not more meaningful than marrying? Absolutely not. The Emperor unhesitatingly rejected my proposal. You are the last scion of the Jiang family, though you may be a girl. We cannot let the Jiang lineage die out. If you truly wish to join the battlefield, then wait until you find a suitable husband, bear children, and then go. Having lived a second life, I no longer wished to remain a gilded cage bird in the capital. Even if I could not escape the fate of marriage and motherhood, I desired to find an eagle soaring over the vast desert. Your Majesty, I assure you, neither war nor marriage will be delayed on my part. Once I reach the border, I shall certainly find someone more fitting. The Emperor sighed deeply. Ah, Qi, the border is a realm of steel and blood. Where could one find a suitable husband there? Why could I not? Was it not my father who encountered my mother at the border? At that time, my father was merely a subduing officer, and my mother was the youngest daughter of the border commander. When the enemies launched a surprise attack, my father recklessly charged to the front lines, and it was my mother who pulled him from the pile of corpses, granting him a second chance at life. Compared to the gentle romance of the capital, I envied the partnership of my parents, who fought side by side, prioritizing the world above all else. The emperor could not withstand my resolve and ultimately chose to respect my wishes. Calculating the time until the expedition, it was less than 7 days away. My reverie was abruptly interrupted by Lu Qi's agitated voice. Upon regaining my senses, I found him gripping my shoulders, exclaiming in frustration, "Jiang Qi, have you lost your mind? Even if you are angry with me, there is no need to jest with your own life." As he spoke, Lu Qi attempted to snatch the tiger talisman from my grasp. I deftly evaded him, knitting my brows and commanding, "Lu Qi, only a general may touch the talisman. Those who defy this shall be deemed treasonous. Are you so reckless as to wish for the annihilation of the entire Lu family?" Lu Qi's hand froze in midair, caught between action and reluctance. His eyes, wide with rage, bore into me. "The Jiang family has but one daughter left. You should understand the value of your life.
Come.
I shall accompany you to the palace at once, to implore His Majesty to retract his orders." I took 2 steps back, creating distance between us. A sovereign's word is not to be taken lightly, a principle that Lord Lu cannot possibly misunderstand. Lin Qingwan cautiously grasped Lu Qi's arm, gently advising Lu Lang, "Miss Jiang speaks the truth. You have already incurred the emperor's wrath on my behalf. You must not stoke the flames further. Otherwise, your future will be irrevocably destroyed." Lu Qi seemed to disregard Lin Qingwan's words, advancing step by step towards me. "Jiang Qi, cease this nonsense. The battlefield is no child's play, and death is a constant threat." To me, death held no fear. Compared to the brutality of war, I dreaded a meaningless demise, just as in my past life, when Lu Qi's flames consumed me, leaving my spirit restless and unfulfilled. Seeing my stubbornness, Lu Qi, in a fit of anger, swept out his sleeves and left, casting one last fiery remark. "If you seek death, I shall not stop you. But do not expect me to retrieve your body in the future." Retrieving a body was unnecessary. I had never anticipated his assistance. For the Jiang family, our desires have never been merely to find peace in burial. Rather, we seek to be wrapped in battle robes, unyielding and unrepentant. 7 days hence marked the wedding day of Lu Qi and Lin Qingwan. It was also the moment I would lead an expedition into battle. In truth, at this very time in my previous life, I had contemplated joining the fray. Yet on the night of the wedding, Lu Qi held me tightly, whispering countless words of reluctance, expressing his desire for us to share our lives together until old age. He pointed to the wedding gown I wore, telling me, "Look, since the day you were born, your mother-in-law has prepared this gown for you.
Aki.
Your parents wish for your life to be peaceful. To them, your happiness outweighs the glory of the family name." In that moment, I relinquished the dreams I had cherished since childhood. I buried the armor and youthful fervor deep within my heart. From that time onward, I subdued my brilliance, gathered my hair into a bun, and rolled up my sleeves to learn how to be a dutiful wife. Eventually, as children came into my life, the constraints upon me multiplied. Protecting my family and my country became a distant dream. I imparted all my martial skills to my son, watching him grow ever more exceptional. On the day he, like his father, achieved the highest honors in both civil and military affairs, my joy surpassed that of anyone else. I believed my long-buried dreams would finally be fulfilled through him. With great enthusiasm, I shared with Lu Qi that when the day came to reclaim the northern territories, I would certainly visit Mount Longju and behold the vast sea of sand. Alas, I never witnessed that day. That very night, I perished alongside Lu Qi in a sea of flames. Riding my steed, I cast one last glance at the city gates. This capital, which had ensnared me for 2 lifetimes, I would finally leave behind. This time, I would no longer wait for others to fulfill my dreams. I would live passionately for myself. Amidst the cacophony of farewells from the common folk, I turned my horse's head. Yet in the next moment, a familiar and urgent voice called out from behind. "Ah, Qi, wait." The approaching figure was a striking shade of red. I remembered vividly. It was the very wedding gown I had personally selected for Lucci. Breathless, he reached me and seized the reins of my horse tightly.
Ah, Chi.
Today I encountered someone. He shared many things with me, and I finally realized how egregiously I was mistaken. Lucci, panting heavily, gazed at me with intense eyes. His disheveled hair, damp with sweat, clung to his face, rendering him utterly disheveled. Yet even so, it could not conceal the hope shimmering in his gaze.
Aki.
Do not leave. I have prepared a splendid bridal attire for you. Would you consider marrying me once more? In my past, I was a person overwhelmed by curiosity. Had I heard Lucci's words today, I would have undoubtedly probed until the very essence of the matter was revealed. However, having lived 2 lifetimes, my heart is now tranquil and unperturbed. Besides, having resolved not to entangle myself with Lucci any further, I find myself devoid of interest in his affairs. With a swift crack of the whip, the horse surged forward, startled. Lucci instinctively loosened his grip, yet he lost his balance and tumbled to the ground. Stumbling, he rose again, unwilling to concede, and pursued on foot. Achi, grant me another chance. Even if not for my sake, do it for our children. Consider their sweetness, their understanding. If we cannot be together, where will they find their place in the world? As a mother, the mere mention of children stirs deep emotions within me. Moreover, our family of 4 once shared an unparalleled happiness. When I carried a pair of twins, Lucci had just been reassigned to the capital. Although the emperor had bestowed upon us a residence, our circumstances remained exceedingly strained. Aside from Peyron, my maid since childhood, the household was staffed only with low-paid laborers. Fearful of my discomfort, Lucci would return home promptly after attending to state affairs, laboring tirelessly for me without a hint of complaint. Even when our children were born, it was Lucci who personally bathed them. As they grew a bit older, his career flourished, and our living conditions gradually improved. Yet, concerning matters of our children and myself, he would never delegate those responsibilities to another. He personally cultivated a garden filled with phoenix flowers for me and crafted swings and wooden horses for our children. I once admonished him gently. With so many affairs of state, you should leave these tasks to the servants. At that time, he would hoist our children onto his shoulders, smiling as he replied, "How could that be? My wife and children deserve my utmost care. Do not wait for them to grow up and seek solace from the servants when they feel wronged. They should turn to their father instead." I could not oppose him, so I acquiesced. Yet from that moment on, he imparted a vital lesson to me. Within a marriage, there should not merely be one-sided devotion. It is only through mutual effort that one can endure the long journey ahead. I thus devoted myself wholeheartedly to managing the Liu household and caring for him. Every instrument he used, from brushes to weapons, was personally arranged by me. Perhaps emulating our example, our children grew up to be particularly considerate and understanding. Our son would echo Lucci's concern for me, while our daughter mirrored my nurturing ways towards their father. In time, our family became the envy of all in the capital. I had always believed that Lucci would share my contentment. Alas, a lifetime of happiness and stability could never outweigh the weight of regret. Thus, in this life, I shall not look back, nor will I afford Lucci any opportunity for regret. From my elevated vantage point, I gazed down at him and calmly stated, "Our son and daughter are remarkable individuals. Even if they were not born from my womb, they would still lead fulfilling lives. Conversely, you and I, having chosen to begin anew, should not lightly abandon our path, regardless of the challenges and dangers that lie ahead. Return now, Lucci. Pay no heed to what others may say. Remember that Lin Qingluan is your own choice, and you must bear the consequences, whether good or ill."
With that,
I turned resolutely and led my troops away, the dust rising to obscure that fleeting glimpse of red, blurring the lines of our past and present. The winds and sands of the border struck my face with a slight sting, yet the vast expanse of the world invigorated my spirit. The warmth of the enthusiastic citizens further uplifted my mood. Upon reaching the gates of Shuabai, I was met with a heartfelt welcome from soldiers and common folk alike. I knew that I basked in the glow of my family's reputation. How fortunate it is to have family as a sturdy tree to shelter beneath. Currently, the border general of Shuabai is Xiao Wenwu, who once served as my father's deputy. He is the very man who rushed back to the capital overnight, sword drawn at Lu Qi's throat for my sake. At this moment, the burly man with sun-kissed skin stood before me, rubbing his hands and gazing at me fondly as he murmured, "You have grown, and you have become so beautiful. If the general were to hear of this, he would surely boast far and wide." In life, my father was a serious man, seldom displaying any levity. He maintained an air of composure in all matters, except when it came to me, where he would chatter like a child. I was raised in the capital, and the soldiers in the barracks had hardly seen me, yet they all knew of my appearance, my favorite foods, and my pastimes. I was oblivious to this until Xiao Wenwu returned to the capital and informed me. In the military tent where my parents once resided, my likeness adorned the walls. I clasped my hands together and asked, "Uncle Xiao, could you take me to see the military tent where my father and mother lived?" Xiao Wenwu waved his hand. "Of course. I have always had someone clean the general and his wife's tent. Nothing has been altered. The furnishings remain just as they were when the general's lady was present." As Xiao Wenwu guided me through the city, the townsfolk handed me an abundance of gifts: freshly laid eggs from their hens, freshly picked vegetables, and even blood-soaked pork. Each face radiated a sincere smile. "Miss Jiang, please accept these. Had it not been for the general and his lady saving our family, we would not even know the height of the grass on our graves. Indeed, Miss Jiang, if not for the Jiang family, we would have long been homeless." Amidst the laughter and banter, a small boy of 5 or 6 squeezed through the crowd, trembling as he tugged at my garment and presented me with a piece of malt candy. I knelt down, accepting it with both hands, and smiled as I affectionately ruffled his hair. "Why would you give me candy?" The little boy gazed at me with earnest eyes, his youthful voice chiming, "Sister, my mother said that if it weren't for General Uncle, I would have perished in her womb. Mother also said you are General Uncle's daughter. So, I wanted to thank you." I pestered Mother for a long time before she finally gave me a coin to buy this malt candy. "This is my favorite treat. It's so sweet, sister, you must try it." Tears welled up in my eyes uncontrollably. I placed the half-melted candy in my mouth. It was sweet, extraordinarily sweet, enough to evoke even more tears. Yet in that moment, I truly understood why my parents and siblings were willing to take up arms and lay down their lives on the battlefield. No amount of fame, wealth, or glory could ever compare to a simple thank you from the common folk. Even a humble piece of candy surpassed anything I had tasted in my 2 lifetimes. I gently embraced the little boy, my voice choked with emotion as I assured him, "Do not worry, though General Uncle may be gone, there will always be your sister. I will make sure you are never bullied." The boy nodded eagerly, and as if recalling something, he hurriedly untied a red string from his wrist and placed it in my palm. "Sister, this is the safety string my mother traveled far to obtain for me. I give it to you, hoping that you return safely each time." I clutched the safety string tightly, my heart brimming with joy as I listened to the tender words of reassurance. For I knew, in this lifetime, I would have no regrets. Xiao Wenwu initially intended to entrust me with the command of the army, but I declined. Although I had been exposed to military matters since childhood, it was, at its core, merely theoretical knowledge. Xiao Wenwu did not press the issue but arranged for his deputy to accompany me. This deputy, his nephew, was named Xiao Zhiheng. With bronze-hued skin and a tall, lean frame, he spoke little. However, as time passed, I discovered that he was a rare talent in military affairs. Not only was he skilled in combat, but he also possessed a remarkable strategic mind. My inaugural venture into battle, under his guidance, culminated in a resounding victory. The celebration that ensued stretched into the late hours of the night, with revelers sprawled across the ground in drunken stupor. As the sounds of merriment faded, I ascended the hillside alone, seeking solace in the cool breeze and the luminous moonlight. The moon over the vast desert differed greatly from that of the capital. It was clear and bright, as if within reach. If Chang'e and Wugang truly existed, they could only be seen distinctly in this arid expanse. Lost in contemplation, a cloak was draped over my shoulders. Xiao Zhiheng settled beside me, his voice cool and composed. "The desert night is chilly. General, do not let yourself freeze." As his words hung in the air, a gust of wind swept by, confirming the coldness of the night. I gathered my clothing closer and replied, "Thank you. However, please refrain from calling me General. I am not quite accustomed to that title. Just call me a Qi very well, "Achi," he responded. That seemed to be the first time I witnessed Xiao Zhiheng smile. His brows arched like gentle waves, and his eyes sparkled like stars. Unlike Lu Qi, whose demeanor was always formal and handsome, he possessed a unique charm of his own. In the 2 or 3 months since my arrival at the frontier, Xiao Zhiheng had consistently maintained an air of calm amidst turmoil, never displaying anger, panic, or even joy. With a slightly dizzy head, I turned to him and remarked, "You look quite handsome when you smile." "Then I shall strive to do so more often," he replied, momentarily taken aback, his cheeks flushing red as he awkwardly curved his lips. He quickly shifted the conversation. "Achi, I have heard from my uncle about your situation with Lu Qi. Now that you are here at the frontier, do not dwell on such troubling matters. There are many good men in this world. There is no need to hang oneself on a single rope." I was taken aback. I hadn't expected this rugged man, raised in the military, to exhibit such thoughtfulness. I calmly shook my head and smiled. "I am not sad. On the contrary, I must express my gratitude. Otherwise, I would never have had the chance to meet you all." Our conversation was delightful, and before I knew it, it was already midnight. Just as I prepared to return to the encampment, I noticed flickering blue lights in the distance. Although it was my first time at the frontier, I understood that the desert was home not only to bandits, but also to merciless wolf packs. Xiao Zhiheng, recognizing the danger, positioned himself protectively behind me, gripping his sword tightly. "Do not fear, Achi. As long as I am here, nothing will happen to you." For the first time, I felt a swell of emotion at being so fiercely protected. In my previous life, I had lived without upheaval, though there were moments of discontent. I had never encountered a threat to my life. Curiosity struck me. If Lu Qi were by my side instead, how would he respond? Yet the wolves' howls shattered my thoughts. Upon regaining my senses, I realized the wolf pack had surrounded us from all sides. Witnessing Xiao Zhiheng fighting valiantly, I understood that I could not remain idle. I drew my sword and swiftly joined the fray. The commotion roused my inebriated comrades, who began to awaken one by one. Seeing that the wolves could not gain the upper hand, they retreated silently, like a receding tide. Covered in blood, Xiao Zhiheng scrutinized me anxiously, his voice trembling. "Achi, are you unscathed?" Before I could respond, a familiar voice echoed from behind the crowd. "Does it matter to you whether she is harmed?" It had been a long time since I last saw Lu Qi. He appeared much more haggard, his unkempt appearance a far cry from the youthful scholar I once knew. Approaching me, he pried Xiao Zhiheng's hand away, his eyes brimming with wariness. "Who are you? Why are you so close to Achi?" Without waiting for Xiao Zhiheng to reply, I interjected, "He is my deputy, and someone I hold dear. Not only Lu Qi, but even my recently awakened comrades seemed taken aback, as if they had suddenly become intoxicated again." I glanced at the stunned Xiao Zhiheng and, feeling a surge of guilt, added, "He has taken great care of me during these days. It is only natural that I have developed feelings. But do not feel pressured. I will not let my affections become a burden for you." Before Xiao Zhiheng could process my words, Lu Qi's eyes reddened. He pulled me aside, gripping my shoulders tightly, demanding, "Have you lost your mind? What worth does a powerless deputy hold for you?" For the first time, I felt a tinge of disdain towards Lu Qi. When has the Jiang family ever valued power and wealth? Were you not also impoverished and without status before you achieve your success? Did my father not choose you as my betrothed? Lu Qi was left speechless, stammering as he struggled to find a response. "You are young and naive, unlike your father, who can discern character." I could not help but laugh derisively. "Is that so? I wouldn't bet on it." Just as I spoke, Xiao Wenwu hurriedly arrived. Upon seeing the wolves had retreated, he clasped his hands before Lu Qi and said, "Lord Lu, thank you for sending someone to alert us. It is my fault for oversleeping and arriving late." Lu Qi appeared displeased. "I dispatched someone to inform you as soon as the wolves appeared. How can General Xiao be so negligent and still claim to lead an army?" I did not hear Xiao Wenwu's response, for Lu Qi's words sent a jolt through me. "If you had arrived earlier, why did you not warn me and Deputy Xiao when the wolves approached?" Realizing he had misspoken, Lu Qi hurriedly attempted to clarify. "Achi, I did not mean not to warn you, but you know, if startled, the wolves would only be provoked." While his words sounded reasonable, they ultimately stemmed from his fear of death. In that moment, I understood that in times of peril, not everyone would stand by your side. Adversity reveals true intentions, and it can also expose falsehoods. However, the choice to save or abandon is a personal right and should not be coerced. From Lucci's perspective, he was not in the wrong. Yet from my standpoint, I could no longer regard him with the same eyes. I turned away from Lucci's grasp and returned to Xiao Zhiheng's side. No need for explanations, I understand. You did nothing wrong. Now that you are here, rest for a couple of days and let General Xiao show Lord Lu the sights of the frontier. Lucci's expression darkened, filled with reluctance, and what about you? I cautiously tugged at Xiao Zhiheng's sleeve, fabricating an excuse. Deputy Xiao, and I must devise the next strategic plan. I truly have no time to accompany Lord Lu. I hope you can understand. Hastily escaping that battlefield, I returned to the camp only to realize I was still clutching Xiao Zhiheng's sleeve. I quickly released it and expressed my gratitude. Thank you for not exposing me. And those earlier words were merely to fend off Lucci. If I offended you in any way, I sincerely apologize. As I prepared to slip back to my quarters, Xiao Zhiheng grasped my arm. If it were genuine, it would not matter. There is no harm in trying. Having lived 2 lives, if I could not comprehend Xiao Zhiheng's words, it would truly be a life wasted. Yet, I had never believed that matters of the heart could be resolved in an instant. Aheng, do you love me? Xiao Zhiheng fell silent for a moment before honestly shaking his head. I do not know. I only feel that these past few months spent with you have been very comfortable. That was the answer I sought. Were Xiao Zhiheng to declare love outright, I might have looked down upon him. Those who can easily utter such words often lack sincerity, much like Lucci in my previous life. After our marriage, I would frequently inquire whether he loved me, and he would invariably respond without hesitation, affirming his love. I once believed that was an instinctive reaction, inscribed deep within him. Only in death did I come to realize that love can be performed, morphing into a mere habit devoid of sincerity. Thus, in this lifetime, I yearn to eschew such a habit. What I desire is candor, a heart that beats true. I turned to gaze directly into Xiao Zhiheng's eyes, equally forthright, and declared, I do not love you either. Yet, like you, I relish being in your company. I feel that you understand and respect me. Xiao Zhiheng's eyes sparkled like a spring pool, shimmering yet untainted. With a gentle smile, he inquired, Shall we take it slow? I nodded emphatically. Indeed, there is no rush. We shall proceed at our own pace. In a hurried arrival, Xiao Wenwu inadvertently overheard our entire exchange. He burst into hearty laughter, exclaiming, Ah Chi, you two are just like your parents. My parents, long stationed at the border, were little known to the folks in the capital. Thus, it was rare for me to hear tales of their past. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked Uncle Xiao what were my parents like. Xiao Wenwu gazed towards the city walls, his face beaming with joy, as if the 2 quarrelsome individuals had reappeared before him. They were even more tumultuous than you two, he chuckled. When they first met, they clashed like 2 fighting cocks. However, after standing shoulder to shoulder in battle twice, they became comrades in arms and eventually true friends. At that time, none of us brothers imagined they would evolve into a loving couple. Upon hearing Xiao Wenwu's words, a knowing smile spread across Xiao Zhiheng's and my faces. It seemed that our decision to take things slowly was indeed the wisest choice. For only by proceeding gradually can one truly understand another's virtues and flaws. Unlike my parents, who often engaged in heated arguments, my relationship with Lucci was not one of mutual respect and harmony. They frequently quarreled, with my mother sometimes resorting to physical altercations, leaving my father with bruises. Yet, even in perilous times, my father would charge into enemy camps, risking his own safety to protect my mother, seeking to offer her warmth even when all hope seemed lost. I too wished for a partner like my father, someone who would fear for my life and stand by me until the end, rather than hastening my demise. If there had been a lingering dissatisfaction within me before, it had now transformed into genuine acceptance. After that day, Xiao Zhiheng and I immersed ourselves in our strategizing, so busy that we barely paused to eat, subsisting on but a single meal a day. This relentless pace continued until the 7th day, when Xiao Wenwu could no longer bear it and barged in, declaring, Ah Chi, you deal with that clingy Lu Qi yourself. You can't shake him off. and he finds every possible way to intrude upon your tent. I've done nothing but thwart him all day. It was then that I recalled Lu Qi's presence. I turned to Xiao Zhihong and asked, "Did you receive any response to the letter I asked you to deliver to Lin Qinglan?" As fate would have it, the moment I spoke, a commotion erupted outside. We rushed out, expecting to find soldiers brawling, only to discover it was Lu Qi and Lin Qinglan embroiled in a heated argument. Lin Qinglan appeared disheveled, her once pristine white dress now dusty and dull. Perhaps angered by Lu Qi, the innocent demeanor she once bore had vanished entirely. With one hand on her hip and the other pointing accusingly at Lu Qi, she exclaimed, "You begged me to return to the capital, yet now that we're married, you leave me alone in the city and run off to this godforsaken place. What does that mean?" Lu Qi was equally defiant. "What do you mean you don't understand? When the governor of Beizhou came to report in the capital, he informed me of your mischief in exile, how you sought to entangle yourself with officials and wealthy merchants. That made me reconsider our marriage. It was Qi who told me that one must take responsibility for their actions, which is why I gritted my teeth and married you. But in these months of marriage, when have you fulfilled the duties of a wife? Because of Qi, the emperor has taken away all my power. You, a wife, not only failed to comfort me, but constantly criticize me. I truly regret feeling sorry for you in the first place." Hearing Lu Qi's words, I instantly understood. On our wedding day, when he stopped me, he was referring to the governor of Beizhou, Jiang Ping, the very official overseeing Lin Qinglan and her fellow exiles. Jiang Ping was fully aware of everything that transpired during Lin Qinglan's exile, and since my father had once saved Jiang Ping, it seemed he had spoken on my behalf, leading to Lu Qi's sudden remorse. However, I was not surprised. I had long known Lin Qinglan's character, an ambitious individual driven by fame and fortune, unwilling to be shackled by the hardships of Beizhou. Yet, if I were to express this aloud, Lu Qi would never believe me. He needed to experience the absurdity of his regrets firsthand. I had no desire to meddle in their domestic disputes, thus addressing the onlookers, I said, "Return to your own affairs. Mind your own business." I had initially thought that sending for Lin Qinglan would allow her to take Lu Qi away. Yet, Lu Qi remained steadfast, refusing to leave despite Lin Qinglan's relentless pleas for half a month. I had no intention of getting involved further until Lin Qinglan approached me, saying, "Miss Jiang, please come back with us. Lu Lang has said that if you refuse to leave, he will remain here until you agree." I set down my pen, a sardonic smile gracing my lips. "In your eyes, does guarding the borders and waging war seem like child's play? You think you can just leave when you please? What do you think an army is? What do you think the common people are?" This time, Lin Qinglan refrained from arguing with me. Her face bore the weight of exhaustion as she replied, "I understand. Matters of state should not be hindered by personal feelings. But I am at my wit's end. If Lu Lang refuses to return, what will happen to the child in my womb?" It was then that I noticed her slightly rounded belly. Though I did not harbor any fondness for Lin Qinglan, I, too, had been a mother and understood the significance of a complete family for a child. I will try to persuade him. As for whether he listens, I cannot guarantee. Upon seeing me, Lu Qi's face lit up with excitement. But that joy quickly faded upon noticing Xiao Zhihong behind me. His tone turned sarcastic as he remarked, "What? Have you come to provoke me with your new flame, hoping to hasten my departure?" I was not angered. Instead, I poured myself a cup of tea, sipping leisurely as I replied, "I am quite busy and have no time to provoke you. I merely wish to inquire if you are aware that your wife is pregnant?" Lu Qi's expression darkened, his impatience evident as he replied, "I know." Observing his nonchalant demeanor, I was struck by how he seemed to have transformed entirely. The attentive, caring man who once cherished his wife and child had turned cold and unfeeling. Realizing this, my tone sharpened. "Lu Qi, I have told you once a choice is made, one must take responsibility to the end. In our past life, you did not love me, yet you managed to be considerate. In this new life, why can you not do the same? Regardless of your feelings towards Lin Qinglan, the child is innocent." Seeing my anger, Lu Qi hastily explained, "Qi, it's not that I have changed. It's just that she is different from you. I know she is not at fault. It is that you are simply too good. I cannot convince myself to give you up and accept her. In truth, I comprehend the sentiment. After years of marriage, Lu Qi undoubtedly harbors love for me. Yet, overshadowing that love is an indelible sense of regret. Regret for not being able to marry me in this lifetime. I am acutely aware of Lu Qi's disposition. He is obstinately steadfast. Once he has deemed his feelings for me as love, no amount of persuasion will easily sway him. Thus, I directly offered him a torch and proclaimed, "If you truly feel regret, then embrace death alongside Lin Qingwan as you did in the previous life." I continued with unwavering certainty. "However, I can assure you that even if I were to live another life, I would not choose you again." Lu Qi, who had already grasped the torch, found his hand frozen in midair upon hearing my words.
Why?
He inquired. "We could return to the time before our engagement. You had not yet joined the army, nor encountered Xiao Zhihong. I had not yet brought Lin Qingwan back. Everything was still within reach. Would such a tranquil life not be preferable?" I calmly shook my head. "No, for I cherish the life and choices I have in this existence. I possess my own dreams and companions willing to fight alongside me. In what way does this not surpass the previous life?" My words shattered Lu Qi's final hope, irrevocably severing his intentions. Ultimately, he relinquished the torch and departed the border with Lin Qingwan. After Lu Qi's departure, I remained at the border for 7 full years, marrying and bearing children. Most astonishingly, in this life, Xiao Zhihong and I were blessed with a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. It felt as though everything lost had returned, and in a manner far better than before. Once the enemy was decisively expelled from the northern deserts, Xiao Zhihong and I were summoned back to the capital to report our duties. That was the last time I laid eyes on Lu Qi. He stood amidst the populace, gazing at me from afar. I had heard whispers that he had transformed into a devoted husband, attentive to his wife and children. Yet upon seeing him, I perceived an unmistakable weariness etched upon his features. The once vibrant glimmer in his eyes had long since faded. When Lu Qi noticed my gaze upon him, he endeavored to lift the corners of his mouth, forcing a smile, his lips moving incessantly. However, the crowd was too numerous and boisterous, rendering his words inaudible. I could only discern 3 words: "In the next life." Warm hands enveloped mine, and I turned to meet Xiao Zhihong's gentle gaze. Calmly, I responded to his unspoken question in my heart, "Let us not meet in the next life." I believed I had already encountered the finest person. The emperor initially wished to retain Xiao Zhihong and me in the capital, yet we silently declined his unspoken invitation. Though life at the border was arduous, it had become our home, and the people there were our irreplaceable family. The emperor, respecting our decision, bestowed upon us a generous gift of gold, silver, and jewels before bidding us farewell. Upon returning to the border, Xiao Zhihong and I entrusted the treasures to Xiao Wenwu, instructing him to exchange them for grain and medicine to distribute among the impoverished populace. Subsequently, we spurred our horses forward, riding into the sunset's fading light. Xiao Wenwu, flanking our young children, stood behind us with a furrowed brow, shouting, "What are you two planning to do now?" "I am a general, not your family's wet nurse." Exchanging a glance with Xiao Zhihong, we harmoniously waved to Xiao Wenwu. "Thank you for your hard work. We will return soon." Together, Xiao Zhihong and I rode side by side, swords drawn, journeying northward. At last, we would behold the majestic Mount Langjutsu, the pinnacle of martial prowess. The end of the text. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe. Until we meet again in the next story.